Bueno, sí, y vamos a grabar y muy buenos días, buenos días. Estamos en la mitad de la semana. We're right in the middle of the week here. Um, uh, bueno, el trabajo para hoy, today's work. We're going to pick up, we're going to leave, we're going to finish off our little reading article. And from there, because it's a pronunciation thing and we're thinking all things pronunciation, we're going to play a little snippet of something. I'll give you the full link for it in the class notes later after class. We're just going to play a little snippet of a really good video that talks about why it's tough for us to understand spoken Spanish sometimes. There are actual, like, phonetic reasons, and it kind of shows why that happens, with some examples of when that happens. So we're going to tie that in to our reading thing, since it's a pronunciation thing. And then we're going to go with finishing up as many of our questions as we can. The conversation questions, and I think we finished up the ¿Cuál es tu vegetal favorito? The número 6, the number 6 questions. So we're going to start with 7 on and see how many of those we get through. And I don't think we're going to need to do little rooms because I think we've got enough people out that it's going to probably work as a whole group setting. So we've got a number of little things we're doing today. Okay, adelante. Vamos a empezar con la lectura. We're going to start with our reading. Vamos a empezar con la lectura. And we're going to focus on the really crisp vowels and on eliminating sounds like shun. And we're going to work on, making sure that all the a, e, I, o, u, all those come out nice and clear. Those are the main things. No shun, no schwas, no but a, e, I, o, u. Okay. Bien, 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 bien. Vamos a ver, vamos a ver. Uy, a ver, es una frase bastante larga. It's a pretty long sentence here. ¿Quién quiere empezar? Who'd like to start some reading aloud? Carrie, bien.
Los preparativos para la festividad comienzan con meses de antelación. La cantidad de vuelos con flores, inspectores y trabajadores aumenta a partir de mediados de enero.
Bien, and that nice aumenta, you had a nice diphthong. That aumenta was great. Yeah. The only little thing we want to maybe work on, and this is a hard word because it's something like a word that you're maybe more likely to read or maybe hear in a store, or maybe you're likely to hear this when you book something. Antelación. Antelación. It's a multiple syllable word, so it's a harder one to pronounce. Antelación, antelación. Okay, lots of vowels in there. Okay, so preparations for the festivity. Yeah, the celebrations, yeah. Begin con meses de antelación, with months in advance. So months in advance. We would not translate that con that way as with. They begin months in advance. The quantity of flights with flowers, inspectors, and workers goes up or increases, aumenta, increases. A partir de mediados de enero, starting from the middle of January. A partir de, from the departure time of, or after, or yeah. So what they're saying is the number of flights goes up starting middle of enero, January. Okay, vale. Bueno, aquí. Uy, ay, 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 ay. Bien, bien, bien. Aquí, importadores. And you had a whole, you have flores, inspectadores, all those, you had ores, lots of good words with ORs. Okay. Alguien más, somebody else here. ¿Alguien más? Sí. Bueno, Bárbara.
Okay. Los importadores piden sus ofertas para San Valentín. Normalmente manejos de flores en cajas para floristas, minoristas, retailers, quienes arreglan sus propios ramos y ramos ya preparados para cadenas de supermercados como Costco y Walmart, así como sitios de comercial electrónico como 1-800 Flores.
Sí, flores, flowers, sí.
Flowers,
Bien,
sí.
pero es el número para marcar, that's the dialing thing, right? So importers ask for their sales for Valentine's Day. Normally bunches, manojos is like saying bunches, yeah. Bunches of flowers in boxes for retail florists. Minorista looks like minor, and minorista means a retailer. Why? Minor sounds like it's making something small, doesn't it? Because retailers are not wholesalers. I think that's why it gets that name. Okay, retailers who arrange their own bouquets and already prepared bouquets for supermarket chains. Cadenas are chains, literally chains that you would use to lock something up. Yeah. But that is used in a business sense as well as we use the word chain in a business sense for supermarket chains like Costco and Walmart. As for commercial websites, electronic. So yeah, websites, electronic commercial websites like 1-800-Flowers. Okay, vale. Bueno, una frase normal. This is a normal length sentence here. Kathleen, ¿quieres continuar?
Sí. Las flores deben permanecer latentes
Latentes.
a bajas temperaturas, para lo que se requiere refrigeración en los aviones de carga, las bodegas y los camiones.
Camiones, sí, ok. Y refrigeración, ¿sí? Flowers need to remain latent, so we don't want them already blooming, yeah? That latent thing means not in bloom, right? We want them to stay latent, meaning not blooming yet, at low temperatures. For which refrigeration is required. And this se requiere is a kind of a passive voice thing. Refrigeración se requiere is required. In where? And they tell us where. In cargo planes. This bodega, we have kind of a different use for bodega in English, but this bodega means warehouses, storage facilities, yeah. Y camiones and trucks. Okay, vale. Bueno, a ver. ¿Quién? Una frase corta. Short one, Lori, bien.
El lunes, los trabajadores descargaron 22 palés con cajas de flores de un
Airbus.
a
Airbus.
330 freighter de Avianca.
Avianca, sí. Y
Avianca.
Avianca es el nombre de la aerolínea. That's the airline name. Okay, bien. Laura, you want to finish that one up because that's such a short sentence there.
Sure.
Las cajas de flores.
Las cajas de flores se apilaron de manera ordenada a la espera de la aprobación de la Oficina de Aduanas y Protección Fronteriza. Claveles blancos con puntas rojas, girasoles brillantes, hortensias color lavanda.
Ah, sí, bien. And they name specific types of flowers here. The boxes of flowers are piled up. Se apilaron, are stacked up, are piled up, yeah, in an orderly way, waiting for approval from, aduanas is customs, yeah.
Oh,
Waiting for the approval of customs office and border protection, yeah. Protección fronteriza. Fronteriza, la frontera means the border, meaning borders between countries, yeah. And then they name types of flowers, white carnations with red tips. There, when they say puntas rojas, red tipped, white carnations, but with red tips, yeah. Girasoles. Girar is to do this.
oh,
And sol, obviamente, el sol es sun. So
sunflower.
turn to the sun. What kind of flower do you think that might be?
Sunflower.
Sunflowers.
Sunflowers. That's the word for
Sunflower.
sunflowers. Girasoles. Brilliant sunflowers. Hortensias. I'm not very up on my flower names. I think that might be hydrangea. I've got to check that one out. Hydrangea, I think. See, I could, you know what? If you showed me a hydrangea, I would not know what it looked like. Because I'm not really a very hot gardener here. Lavender colored, yeah, hydrangeas. Desde la magia, desde la mágica tierra de Colombia para el mundo. From the magical land of Colombia out to the world. Para el mundo para tells where it's destined, meaning all the rest of the world. Yeah, para el mundo. You could look at it as for the world, but they're saying desde, from this place, and that para means we want to end up. From starting off in Colombia, which is a magical land, to the rest of the world. See, se leía en un cargamento de cajas is read or was read on a box shipment. Okay. Especialistas. This one starts to get technical. It starts to talk about what the inspectors are looking for. They mentioned Oficina de Aduanas, Protección Frontera, and now they talk about all those safeguarding folk, what their job is to do. Los especialistas. ¿Hay alguien que quiere leer? Anybody who wants to read this?
I'll
Jerome.
try.
Okay, Diana.
Los especialistas en agricultura tomaron muestras de los cargamentos en busca de enfermedades y plagas polizonas como escarabajos, saltamontes, avispas
Sí.
avispas y polilas. Tomaron ramos de flores y los sacudieron boca abajo sobre papel blanco. Si caja algo sospechoso,
Bien.
lo examinaban con una lupa y una linterna.
Linterna, sí. Linterna looks like lantern, but what it really means is a flashlight. Yeah, flashlight. Lupa, think a jeweler's loupe. So you know that they're looking at that stuff with a magnifying glass and a flashlight. So agricultural specialists took samples. Muestras, mostrar is to show. Muestras, as a noun, are samples. Took samples of shipments in search of illnesses, so diseases. Yeah, they look for plant diseases at the border. See, plant diseases and stowaway pests. Plaga looks a little bit like plague, and it is that. It means pests. And the polizonas means stowaway pests, meaning those little bugs take a hitch. They take a ride on the plants, right? And then they tell what kind of pests they're looking for, like beetles, saltamontes, grasshoppers, saltamontes, jump over mountains. Those are grasshoppers, saltamontes, grasshoppers, wasps, avispas, y polillas, moths. So they're looking for all the buggies that come in with the produce and live plant type things. That's what they're talking about. Tomaron ramos de flores. They took bunches of flowers y los sacudieron. Sacudieron. They
Shake 'em.
shook
Shake
them. They shook them. And boca abajo means this.
Oh, upside down? maybe?
Upside down.
Oh, over a
Boca
white
abajo
chicken.
means mouth underneath.
Oh,
And the way for expressing upside down, if you're things, people, anything, like for a person, that would be if somebody had their face down on the ground, if they laid out down with their face on the ground, boca abajo. Okay. So they shook them upside down sobre papel blanco, over a white piece of
White
paper,
paper.
right? Si caía algo, if something was falling out, and now that's imperfecto because it talks about a description. Yeah. If something fell out, if something suspicious fell out, sospechoso. Yeah. If something suspicious fell out, they would examine it with magnifying glass and and a flashlight. Okay. Los especialistas revisaron y aprobaron más de 830 millones de tallos de 75,000 cajas y encontraron unas 1,100. 1,100 plagas, pests. The specialists checked. Revisar is to check out. Not check out of a hotel, but to examine something carefully. Yeah. Checked and approved more than 830 million samples of 75,000 boxes and found 1,100 pests. Plagas are pests. Okay, vale. Bueno, a ver. Uy, hasta aquí. Up to here. ¿Alguien quiere leer un poquito? Anybody want to do a little bit of reading here?
I can try that one.
Sí, bien, Jan. Sí.
El lunes, un especialista, José Rodríguez, encontró un plaga diminuta, no mucho más grande que una partícula de tierra, en un ramo de crisántimos. La colocó en un frasco con alcohol a fin de enviarla al Departamento de Agricultura de Estados Unidos para su identificación.
Identificación. And you're going to see in our little pronunciation clip why that word alcohol is so hard for us to pronounce. Alcohol, there is the real stinker word in the group for an English speaker. Alcohol. Alcohol has lots of problems because we got an H in the middle and the H is silent. But then that means we've got alcohol and another O sound right next to it. And all that means is that we take that O-H-O and it becomes O. Instead of a normal Spanish O should be O kind of short, you know, like in departamento, not departamento, right? Departamento o Estados Unidos, o. But when I've got a double O, because it really is a double O, it's alcohol. So then we do drag it out because I do have two O's next to each other. And that is a rare thing in Spanish. There are very few words that do that, but that is a word that literally we use a lot. So, alcohol. Okay. On Monday, el lunes, on Monday, a specialist, Jose Rodriguez, found a tiny pest, diminuta, a very teeny tiny pest, a minuscule pest, not much bigger than a speck of earth, and a chrysanthemum bunch, a bunch of chrysanthemums, see, un ramo, be a bouquet. La colocó, he put it, and there that la is talking about the plaga. Plaga diminuta, yeah? The la is talking about la plaga, the pest. La colocó, he put it en un frasco con alcohol, in a flask. Frasco is flask, a bottle of some kind, yeah? Usually a tall one, in a flask with alcohol. A fin, with the end of, meaning to enviarla, send it, and we're spending the pest, right? So again, the la is talking about la plaga. To send it to the Department of Agriculture in the US for its identification. See? Los crisantemos quedaron retenidos hasta que la agencia decidía qué medidas tomar. The chrysanthemums stayed behind. There's quedar for remain. Stayed behind, retained. So they were kept behind. They were kept back. They were held back. There's quedar with that true remain idea. They were held back, held behind, hasta que la agencia decida qué medidas tomar, until the agency makes a decision or decides what measures to take. See, como fumigar el cargamento, like fumigate the cargo load, yeah, see, devolverlo a la finca o destruirlo, returning it to the farm. A finca is like a big plantation. And actually, these are grown on big plantations. So finca as plantation is a better translation. Return it to the plantation, the place where it was grown, o destruirlo, or just destroying it. Okay. Hay dos partes más, two more parts, and then we're going to take a look at why some of these connection ideas are tough for us to hear. But now we're focusing on the pronunciation. Varios especialistas. Anybody want to tackle that one? Está aquí Marcos. Bien.
Sorry about joining late. I had
No.
terrible internet problems this morning.
No, no hay ningún problema. No problem at all.
Varios especialistas comentaron que disfrutaban saber que iban a contribuir
Bien.
a alegrarle un poco el día al alguien, un sentimiento que también expresaron otras personas de la industria.
Bien, and good industria pronunciation there. Very good on that word. Several, that varios looks like various, but like a more precise translation for varios is several. Para que sepan, just so you know, yeah. Although I guess in English, various and several, that's kind of related. You know, they're different words, but so several specialists commented that they enjoyed knowing, and now it's description thing, right? How long did they enjoy? It's not an event, it was how they felt. So it's imperfecto. They enjoyed knowing that they were going to contribute to making somebody happy, a little happier that day. Yeah. A feeling that that other people also expressed in the industries. ¿Sí? Hay una historia que acompañará a cada uno de estos ramos. There is a story that will go along with each one of these bouquets. Every bouquet carries a story of why that person is sending something, right? Mencionó ramas, el ejecutivo. Ser parte de un momento tan íntimo en tantas partes del país es toda una bendición. To be a part of such an intimate moment in so many parts of the country, so many places, right, is a total blessing. Toda una bendición, all a blessing, meaning, you know, we might say in English, a real blessing, a true blessing. Yeah. And a typical way to express that idea of making something like, wow, it's really this way. Toda una bendición. Toda una bendición. Bien. Vale. Bueno. Next week, you're going to have a different set, a different reading story, and it's pretty short, es breve. Es un artículo que habla de desconectar. Y desconectar del mundo electrónico, del mundo del internet y el por qué. Y es un artículo de algo que está pasando, sé que ocurre en Australia, something is happening in Australia, but that many people complain about in other places besides Australia, all over the world, por todo el mundo. Okay, bien. So you'll have a new thing to read for next week. Next week is the last, yes, it's the last of our fall session, para que sepan, just so you remember. So you'll have a little reading to do there, and we'll continue with some reading. We're going to take a look at some things here, though. We're going to connect this reading with a listening, because those two things kind of start to connect with each other. And I want to take a look at this sentence so you can see why this becomes an issue when you listen to other people. Okay. And you may think, wow, this is a bad enough hurdle when I got to pronounce all these long words. But when you listen to somebody who is a native speaker pronouncing all these words, then the reaction of the normal learner, and not just English speakers, but anybody learning another language, is, wow, the way they connect those words, I don't understand what the heck they're saying. But yeah. Let's look at these combinations here. I'm going to isolate something because the snippet of the video we're going to watch that kind of highlights why this happens might help you to understand why we struggle with listening to native speakers. And it's not always an issue of just speed at which people are speaking when they are native speakers. It is an issue of how the words start to hang together like spit. I had a teacher who used to have this spittoon theory of life. That in the 1800s, you know, the guys would go up, belly up to the bar in the Old West, go get a drink at the old saloon. And what did they always have at the Old West saloon was a spittoon. What a gross thought. Yeah. And, you know, then the days of chewing tobacco and cigars and Spittoons served a purpose. I won't go into why, because you know why, but somebody's job at the end of the day in the saloon was to empty those spittoons, and
Oh.
everything hangs together. So it's the spittoon theory of life. Everything hangs together, gloppy and gross. Okay, so if I isolated this thing, it shows how the gloppy and gross, everything hangs together. Just this little snippet I've got highlighted in blue, see? Contribuir a alegrarle un poco el día a alguien.
Yeah.
That's now, so contribuir a alegrarle, alegrarle. This stuff, when somebody speaks, is going to all hang together, and that makes it very challenging for us to listen. Un poco el día a alguien. That whole chain would come out as un poco el día a alguien. We're going to see why that happens. Ooh, I need to put my sound on, which I did not do. So, this is kind of a useful video to listen to. It's a long video, so we're not going to listen to the whole thing. 23 minutos, 23 minutes you don't need now, but you may want to listen to more of it, later on your own time. But we're going to listen to why this is challenging, and I put the subtitles on for you. And he tries to speak pretty slowly, so I'll kind of do some commentary as he runs along.
Es tan difícil entender a los hablantes de español.
Why is it so hard
Una
to
de las
understand
razones
native
es
speakers?
el habla conectada.
One of the reasons it's hard is not necessarily the speed, but connected speech.
Por ejemplo, ¿cómo pronunciarías esta frase?
¿Qué es esto?
¿Qué es esto?
¿Qué es esto?
¿Qué es esto?
This is one of the most common things you'll hear people say just in everyday chit chat. ¿Qué es esto? ¿Qué es esto? That's how it comes out. ¿Qué es esto? And all those things are, of course, phonetic things, which I'm not always good at with the actual, there are rules for how you show phonetic pronunciation. ¿Qué es esto? All right.
I have a really quick anecdote that
Sí.
this phrase of what is this? Let me just steal 20 seconds of our time.
Oh, sí, claro.
I remember on our trip to Israel, we were having trouble getting checked in at a good hotel. And the lady behind the desk was asking one of her colleagues, Maza? And it was like, Maza. It was so fast. Maza means what is this in Hebrew? And it was exactly like that. It was like, boom. And it was like one of the few words I had remembered of learning Hebrew.
Yeah. So, and my opinion, para mí, what I think, para mí, esto ocurre en cada idioma. This happens in every language. We're just really unaware. So think about that. In English, how does this usually come out? What's that? What's that?
Yeah.
And that's what people hear. What's that? What is that? No one ever says in English, what's that? And it sounds like zat. Yeah. Well, okay. So here's the Spanish version of that. ¿Qué es esto? ¿Qué es esto?
¿Qué es esto? Como acabas de escuchar, normalmente pronunciamos ¿qué es esto?
But nobody says ¿qué es esto? And because we are learning this and getting, we isolate those words because our English brains need to do that as we're learning the Spanish. But look at that. Que ends in an E, and the next word starts with an E, so it's just going to prolong that E sound. ¿Qué es esto? ¿Qué es esto? Okay, but he's going to take it a little step beyond that.
Las palabras se conectan. En este video aprenderás cómo se conectan. Esto te ayudará a hablar y escuchar mejor.
So I'm going to tell you in advance so that you can kind of understand as he is saying it. It kind of, which I had not thought of it from this point of view. I had always thought of it as, well, the words just slide together, but actually it goes a little deeper than that. So that's why we're only going to see a part of this video. When you're listening to people talk, actually, this is a good perspective to know. How syllables are divided in Spanish is actually a different process for how syllables are divided in English. And I had not thought of it from that point of view, but actually it is a reason for how these words tend to slide together. So it's something to think about when we hear people speaking.
Mejor.
For that, listening
Empecemos.
for that
La
slide.
forma número 1 de conectar palabras es mover una consonante a la siguiente palabra.
Moving a consonant to the next word.
Mm.
So word that ends in a n, which is a lot of verbs, or an S, which is a lot of verbs and a lot of nouns and a lot of adjectives. That is going to get connected to the next word when we've got a vowel in particular.
Por ejemplo, ¿cómo pronunciarías esta frase? Quizás dirías, es aquí.
Es aquí. But that's not how you'll hear it.
Pero los hablantes nativos decimos, es aquí.
Es aquí. Es saki. Saki. It sounds like sake. Hey, Japanese wine that they serve warm. No, it's not sake, but yeah, that S from es, that letter S, gets moved really into that word aquí. Es aquí. Es aquí. That's why it's tough for us to do that listening comprehension portion, and why it sounds fast when it isn't always. Sometimes it's really fast, but sometimes it's just that the way the words roll together. Es aquí.
Cuando una palabra termina en consonante y la siguiente palabra comienza en vocal, la consonante se mueve a la siguiente palabra.
Yeah, when a word ends in a consonant, yeah, S, L, R, N, a consonant, that consonant is going to roll into a vowel if you've got a vowel as the next, beginning of the next word. So that will regularly happen, and it will all get mushed together that way.
¿Por qué hacemos esto en español?
Why do we do this?
¿Y por qué los extranjeros no lo hacen?
And why don't foreigners do it?
Esto pasa porque las sílabas del inglés y las sílabas del español son muy diferentes. Por ejemplo, ¿cómo dividirías en sílabas la palabra inglesa general? Probablemente la dividirías en 3 sílabas. General.
So, long time ago, you forgot you even did this. Like what? First grade, second grade, they taught you how to syllabicate. How do you divide these into syllables? Because as little kids, we had a hard time learning to read and pronounce long words. So we broke them into syllables, yeah? Or you had to know how to divide a word when you went from, hyphenate it and carry it over to the next line. I don't even know if they do that with little kids anymore, but this is the way we were taught in English, general. Okay, and the word is spelled the same way in Spanish, but the syllabication is different.
Pero en español, general se divide general.
And believe it or not, I had to learn this in high school. When I learned Spanish, I had a very picky teacher. And if we didn't did this really matter with us speaking? No, but actually, okay, now that I think about it, I guess it did help me. I just didn't realize how. Yeah, this is the way you you break it into syllables in Spanish. General.
Yeah.
So syllables typically will tend to end on a vowel.
Mhm.
And I never thought of it from this point of view. I knew that this general happens with breaking the syllables, but I did not realize, this is why these words slide together. So it's a good point of view to think about.
¿Notas la diferencia? En inglés, la tendencia natural es a terminar cada sílaba en consonante.
So English tends to end on a consonant.
En español, la tendencia natural es a terminar cada sílaba en vocal.
But in Spanish, they tend to end a syllable on a vowel. And that vowel is going to slide. All those things are going to slide.
La
right
sílaba
together.
típica del idioma español es consonante más vocal. Cuando una palabra termina en consonante y la siguiente palabra comienza en vocal, nosotros movemos esa consonante a la siguiente palabra. ¿Por qué? Porque esta es la sílaba típica en español.
And the reason that slides together, this is the way the cadence of the speech or the language naturally happens. So this is why the slide happens
Consonante
between
vocal.
words.
Por ejemplo, la frase en América. Pronunciar en América no es natural.
So en and stopping America is not natural. En
La primera
America.
palabra termina en consonante y la segunda comienza en vocal. Así que lo más natural es mover la n a la siguiente palabra.
So really what happens in normal pronunciation is en America, and that n from the N slides immediately into America, en America. So en America are never pronounced as two separate words. En America really sounds all like one word, even though they are two words, because that is the cadence they're used to.
Así tenemos una sílaba típica del español, consonante más vocal, na. En América. Puedes practicar el habla conectada con los videos de input comprensible.
Okay, and he goes into a whole description there. So I'm
La
going to
segunda
stop
forma de
him
conectar
with-
palabras es
Oh, no, wait. Second form. Okay. Fusing vowels. And then after this, we'll stop, but just so that you can hear why this happens. So here's another thing, because maybe actually what I showed you in that last thing was that we had vowels that were fusing together. So sometimes you've got consonant next to vowel, they slide together, but sometimes you have vowels and then the next word starts with a vowel as well, and they will fuse. Okay, so what happens when we don't end with consonant vowel and we've got vowel to vowel?
fusionar vocales iguales. Cuando una
Fusing vowels that are the same.
palabra termina en vocal y la siguiente comienza con una vocal igual,
And so when we've got a word ending in the vowel, but the next word begins in the same kind of vowel,
es natural unir esas dos vocales.
it's usual to just join those two vowels, meaning you're just going to drag it out. Whereas normally you wouldn't.
Por ejemplo, la frase ¿dónde está? Pronunciar ¿dónde está? No es natural.
So breaking that into two separate words and pausing in the middle is not a natural way for them to speak. ¿Dónde está? ¿Dónde está? ¿Dónde ends in an E? Está begins with an E. So those two E's are going to elongate that sound. So it really becomes ¿dónde está? It really sounds like one long word, ¿dónde está? Yeah.
Lo más natural es unir las dos E. El resultado puede ser una E larga con un ligero cambio de entonación. ¿Dónde está? Pero también puede ser una E normal. ¿Dónde está? Esta fusión de vocales es más común cuando las dos vocales son átonas, pero también puede ocurrir si una de las dos vocales es tónica.
And don't worry
Por
about
ejemplo,
those terms.
la frase está aquí. La primera palabra termina en A tónica y la siguiente comienza en A átona. Aún así, es común pronunciar una sola A. Puede ser una A larga, está aquí, o una A normal, está aquí.
Okay. So don't worry about the tonic and what that's talking about is that one sound has an accent mark and the other sound. Yeah. Don't worry about it. Two A's. Yeah. Está aquí. Está aquí. You know, You'll probably come out with a pretty hard punch on that first ah, but we're just going to drag that ah out. That's the important thing. So don't get dragged down to the tónica, tónica. Don't get dragged down with that term. No importa. That does not matter to you. What does matter is that está ends in an ah. It gets quite a punch. And then we've got aquí, where really the punch isn't on the ah, but I've still got two ahs right next to each other. So they are still going to fuse, but it's going to get quite a punch on that fused ah. Está aquí. Está aquí. So that gives you an idea of consonant sliding into vowel and two vowels sliding together. So I'm going to give you the link for that. So, you know, if you are the nerdy type of person who really likes to kind of delve into that, you can watch more of it. But sometimes it's important to know why it's hard for us to listen, and to listen with that in mind, because if you're thinking about that fusion, it might be easier to hear. We'll look next week at some other examples of short snippets of speech where that is illustrated, examples of that, and we'll take that next week. Okay.
Marilyn,
Sí.
I'm just kind of wondering, like, you know, in all your experience of teaching people how to speak Spanish, both, you know, kids and adults, at what point does one even think about trying to speak like that? I know your discussion now has been more of how do we try to understand what they're actually saying, but I can't even conceive of, at this point in my Spanish speaking, I can't even conceive of trying to make those connections as I'm speaking.
Sí, entiendo. I totally do understand. That is a hard thing. I would say, okay, mi consejo, my advice. I would say, as a person learning first time myself, I first knew that I was starting to get the idea when I started to dream in it. That took me 3 years. Okay, that took me 3 years. But in a practical way, the more input you get, the more you'll hear that listening comprehension. So what I would say, what comes first for the human brain being able to process it is that listening comprehension bit. Listening skills always lead off, come first. So you're able to hear those differences better first, and being able to speak that same way comes later, and realistically takes quite a long time to speak. And I don't even speak very quickly in English. So yeah, speaking that with that kind of cadence, I would say is going to take a really, really long time. I mean, realistically, a few years. If you went and lived for 6 months abroad, you'd probably start to get into that speaking. It would take about that long. But listening, you can pick that up a little more quickly, but you still need a lot of input, You need to listen to a lot of native speech. So that would mean lots of podcasts, lots of news stories, you know, listening on radio, listening to movies. And in a lot of ways, you want to be able to understand what people are saying to you. You want to make sure you got that nailed down first. It isn't always necessary for you to speak super fast as somebody learning. People will expect you to speak a little more slowly, but they may speak at you at a high rate that you consider uncomfortable. So that skill is more important than you being able to speak super fast. Does that kind of help? What's more important to be able to do? It's more important for you to be able to understand what's coming at you from the environment, meaning what people are saying to you. And it's less important for you to be able to talk really, 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 really fast.
Mhm.
Being able to speak is, of course, important, but being able to speak fast is not necessarily super important. Just saying. Okay. Bien. Wouldn't we all love to just, you know, blah, 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 really fast and yeah.
Marilyn,
Sí.
una pregunta, and this is a little different than what we're talking about, but kind of similar. Yesterday, I saw a fellow that I see only once a year, y él se habla español, y él corta las ramas de los árboles. Y cuando nos encontramos, él me dijo, Bárbara, ¿cómo le ha ido? Y al principio no entendí él porque yo siempre pienso, ¿cómo estás?
Sí, eso.
Me dijo, no, porque hacía un año que nos vemos. Is that
Ah,
right? Like if you haven't, normally you would, we all would know in this class, we'd say, ¿Cómo estás? How are you? But if you've not seen someone in a while, would you say that? Like, how have you been?
how have you been?
Oh,
And think of how you hear that in English. How have you been?
how have you been?
How
Yeah,
have you
and I
been?
just couldn't even make out what he was saying because I always think of ¿Cómo estás? But he said if you've not seen someone, is that right? You would say,
So sí. You haven't seen somebody in a long time, and they want to know how has everything gone down since the last time I saw you till now.
"Mm." And then
Ah,
say
¿cómo te
estás,
ha
but
ido? ¿Cómo te ha ido? How has it gone? How did it go for you?
okay. But he said it's kind of common to say that. See,
It
¿Cómo-"
is pretty common. Yeah, if you're seeing somebody that you do know, but it's a reunion, yes, of sorts.
Okay. I
Sure.
thought that might be interesting because all of us think of ¿Cómo estás? But if you know somebody more, they might say ¿Cómo ha ido? And I thought, what's he saying? You know?
Yeah, and como te ha ido, how has it gone for you? He
Yeah,
might
¿Cómo
say,
te ha ido?
maybe, yeah, you know, es posible, it's possible, yeah. So, right, the level you know people on, how well you know them, they want to know how everything has gone since the last time they saw you, and they phrase it as a past kind of thing.
Mm,
How,
okay.
hey, how did that go for you?
Okay.
How'd it go? How'd it go? How'd it go? Yeah. All kinds of things that we slam together and they convey those ideas. Sí, eso sí. Exactamente. Exactamente.
Mm.
So yeah, all tidbits to think about. Okay. Gracias, Bárbara.
Sí.
Bueno, vamos a continuar. Tenemos más preguntas, más preguntas. We're going to move on with some more of these questions. Y vamos a practicar aquí. ¿Qué cosas haces que le hacen reír a tu pareja? ¡Oh! ¡Oh! Esto es difícil. ¿Tienen una idea o no? ¿O quieren? ¿Hay algo?
What things make you laugh?
Yeah, what things do you do that make your partner laugh?
See.
What do you do that makes your partner laugh? And
Here's-
nothing
here's
in
a-
that
here's a-
question is going to come back in your answer. It'll be something totally See,
Here's a chance for an interesting word to give us the Spanish sort of equivalent. I won't even say the same word, but I didn't know how to answer this either, so I asked my wife, and I didn't really love the answer she gave me. But is there a Spanish equivalent to and I realize I'm the only guy on this call, to mansplaining.
¡Oh! Eso sí. Ah, sí. Creo que sí, hay equivalente a mansplaining, pero no sé exactamente cómo se expresa. Tengo que investigar. Gracias, Marcos. Pero es buena idea porque todo el mundo piensa de vez en cuando en, sí, esta tendencia de mansplaining. Sí, ah, creo que sí hay una manera equivalente y no lo conozco exactamente. Tengo que investigar un poco. I need to investigate that a little bit. La idea es que un hombre le explica algo muy lentamente o no sé exactamente, pero tiene que explicarle a su pareja algo en detalle, ¿sí? Cuando no es necesario.
Ah, sí.
Bien, ¿sí? Que se dice en inglés mansplaining. Y es una cosa en inglés. Momentito, vamos a ver.
And
Creo que sí hay
I need to
algún...
apologize to the group. I'll listen to your explanation, but I've got, you know, with all the burglaries in Scottsdale, we didn't have one, but we
Oh,
listened to the town hall a couple of weeks ago, and we actually have a police department rep who just rang the bell. He's scheduled to come here and sort of audit our house, so,
Hey,
but I can't wait to hear the explanation for mansplaining.
sí, hay algo aquí. No sé, macho explicación. Macho explicación. Yeah. So that's kind of out there on the internet as an example. Sí, eso. Ok, vale. Bueno, creo que en mi familia, sí, muchas veces estoy muy distraída. Empiezo a hacer algo y veo de repente que hay otra tarea relacionada y empiezo a hacer la otra cosa también, las dos.
Sí.
Porque soy una persona a veces distraída. I am sometimes a very distracted person. Kathleen, ¿tienes una idea?
Okay, I had to look this up. So, cuando viamos a un país extranjero, adapto un poco el acento de ese país o lugar. So, cuando, estaba en la sur de los Estados Unidos, empiezo a hablar un poco southern.
Como
O
yo.
en Inglaterra, empiezo a hablar un poco como un nativo de Inglaterra.
Eso sí.
Es unconscious, pero mi esposo creo que es muy chisto.
Es gracioso, ¿sí? Un
Gracias.
hábito gracioso.
Sí.
Sí, entiendo. Entonces, adoptas un poquito el acento del lugar donde estás visitando, ¿bien?
Sí, sí.
Sí, eso. Interesante. Bien, bien. Me gusta. Sí, qué buena idea, Kathleen. ¿Hay algo más o adelante? Sí, Diana.
Mi hija se ríe cuando yo digo que soy una buena conductora.
Sí, pip, pip.
Sí.
Mm.
Ah,
Y cuando yo dijo,
bien,
yo
dale.
dijo, sí.
Bueno, Nora.
Well, in our family, this always brings a laugh. Bob say, how do you say to laugh? I've got
Se
R-I-E with an
ríe, se ríe. He laughs.
se ríe. Bob se ríe cuando me tiro un pedo. That
Ah,
fart. When I fart, it always doesn't matter who in the family, we all laugh.
ok, bien, sí. Se dice si pedo es fart en español. Entonces, echar un pedo o tirar
Oh.
un pedo. Sí, los dos. Tirar un pedo. You always throw it out. But that's
Yes.
either comes out as either echar or tirar. Los dos, the two. Eso, sí. Bien, bien. Las cosas
Sorry about
normales
that.
de la
Kind of
vida.
crude, but yes.
Así es la vida, ¿sí? Son funciones muy normales del cuerpo humano. Sí, así es. Bien, me gusta. Bueno, Carrie.
Mi esposo se ríe conmigo cuando intento hablar español.
Oh,
Ah,
oh,
ah,
oh.
Conmigo.
ok, vale. Bueno, hay otra cosa, algo chistoso. Jan.
Mi esposo se ríe cuando cuento chistes ridículos.
Ah, sí, como puns, quizás, sí. Bien, bien, bueno, me gusta. ¿Algo más?
Ah,
Y Bárbara, sí.
mi esposo se ríe cuando viajamos. A mí me gusta mucho preguntar a gente dónde estar, qué recomiendas para comer y es algo que a mí me encanta hacer y es divertido para él porque él casi nunca quiere preguntar. Ah,
Es así también con mi esposo, ¿sí?
sí,
Y mi esposo siempre me dice, bueno, tú les preguntas, you ask them. Tú les
sí, yo
preguntas,
también.
¿sí?
Porque él ahora está acostumbrado de esto, pero él, no sé, es difícil para él, pero él se ríe mucho cuando hago preguntas.
Sí,
Sí.
entiendo, sí, bien. Bueno, bueno, a ver, adelante, quiero, vamos a ver, sí, el número 8 aquí. ¿Qué tipo de música jamás o nunca? Jamás o nunca. Jamás es un poquito empático, un poquito empático. It's a little more emphatic. Yeah, like never. Okay, but they're interchangeable words. Jamás or nunca. ¿Qué tipo de música jamás escucharías? Nunca escucharías. ¿Qué tipo de música nunca escucharías? And the way we start that off, that's a conditional. So conditional is the same for the yo form and the él, ella, usted form, just like in imperfecto. So the way you start off is no escucharía. Perdón. Necesito mi símbolos aquí. No escucharía o nunca escucharía. Nunca escucharía. I would never listen to. Probably nobody is going to say this word, yo. I mean, they might, but they'll probably leave out the yo. No escucharía. ¿Ok? Bien. No escucharía el rock de metal. Heavy metal rock.
See. And the word listen to there it includes the word to with it. You don't say, I would never listen rock. You just say
You would only include an
Escucharía rock.
if you have a person. Por ejemplo, aquí tenemos un nombre, un cantante favorito de mi esposo. No escucharía, and you know what? You're not even going to hear that is there. Here's a connected speech
Oh.
thing. No escucharía a Sammy Hagar.
I see.
Okay, para una persona sí la A personal aquí, but you're probably not even going to hear that because I'm just going to escucharía Sammy Hagar. You're not going to hear me pause,
Okay.
but it's there. See? But if I don't have a person there, see? No escucharía la música rock de metal. ¿Sí? Bien. Ok, vale. Otra idea.
Nunca escucharía ópera.
Oh, no ópera. No,
No,
no ópera.
no me interesaba.
La ópera.
Ah,
Sí, para mucha gente la ópera es difícil porque bueno, italiano, francés, alemán, sí. El primer problema es que las personas están cantando en otro idioma. Ok. Pero también es un poquito, para ellos es artificial, es artificial. A mi hija le encanta la ópera. ¿Por qué?
Oh.
Yo no escucho ópera con frecuencia, ni mi esposo. Y a él le gusta Sammy Hagar y la ópera no. Pero a ella le encanta la ópera. Ok. ¿Por qué? No sé. Ok, algo más. Música que jamás escucharías. Sí, Bárbara.
Would I say it this way? Nunca escucharía la música rock de metal también o tampoco.
Tampoco. Qué buena pregunta, Bárbara. Tampoco. If you're agreeing with me in a negative, if you're agreeing with my negative idea, when we agree with a negative idea, the word we use is tampoco. When we agree with a positive idea, it's también. So, me gusta la ópera también. I like opera also, pero no me gusta la ópera tampoco. A mí no me gusta la ópera tampoco. I don't like opera either. So if we're agreeing with a negative idea, it's tampoco. Now, would somebody understand you if you messed up and used también? Yeah, they'd understand, but it would sound a little off because it's not what they would do. Okay, bien, bien, vale, bueno.
No escucharía rap. Nunca.
Sí, eso sí. No escucho rap, la música rap tampoco.
No.
Me gusta la vieja música de Motown, me encanta.
Sí.
Pero no me gusta la música rap. Y en la cultura de muchos latinoamericanos, sí se usan a veces elementos de la música rap, como para los jóvenes, ¿sí? Los cantantes jóvenes. Es común también, por todo el mundo, all over. Eso sí. Bien. Bueno, adelante. ¿Cuál es tu estación favorita del año? ¿Cuál es tu estación favorita del año?
¿Qué significa estación?
Estación es
your favorite station?
season,
Season,
pero
season.
hay solamente, pero no es season como football season, ni season como baseball season, no. Las
El
4
otoño.
estaciones hablando del clima,
Okay.
¿sí?
Me encanta el otoño.
El otoño. Ah,
Sí,
también me encanta el otoño, también me encanta. I'm agreeing with you in a positive way, también me encanta.
sí.
Bien.
Mi
Me gusta.
estación favorito es el otoño en Nueva Inglaterra. Me
Ah,
gusta el aire fresco y las hojas coloradas.
sí, las hojas de colores muy vivos, sí, eso, exacto. En Nueva Inglaterra, sí. Es el lugar perfecto para disfrutar del otoño, ¿no? Creo que sí, estoy de acuerdo. Bien. ¿Cuál es la primera cosa que haces por la mañana?
La primera cosa que hago es encender la cafetera.
Encender la cafetera. Encender la cafetera. Turn on that coffee pot. Eso sí, muy normal. Sí, también lo hago. I do it too.
Sí.
Lo hago también. Ok, sí, Carrie.
Después de ir al baño, me peso.
Weigh oneself. Cada día, wow. Eres muy dedicada. You're dedicated. Sí, bien, bien. ¿Algo más? ¿O no? Ok, adelante. ¿Cuál, qué es, perdón, qué es lo que más disfrutabas hacer con tus papás o con tus hermanos cuando vivías con tu familia?
Mm.
Siempre jugaban juegos de mesas todas las noches.
Sí, juegos de mesa, table games, sí, como Monopoly, como
Harry,
Clue.
Clue, sí, sí.
Eso sí. Bien. Siempre jugábamos mucho con con las mascotas en nuestra casa
Mm.
cuando era niña.
Yeah.
Sí.
Teníamos varios perros y jugábamos con los perros, paseábamos con los perros por las calles del barrio, así. Bien, bueno, ¿qué más? ¿Algo más?
Fuimos de camping. That's how
Ah,
it came up as camping, but I don't think that's how Duolingo calls it.
acampar,
Acampañar.
acampar. Sí,
Acampar.
sí, acampar es to camp, ¿sí? Fuimos a acampar. We went camping. Sí, bien, muy bien. Mi mamá, a mi mamá no le gustaba acampar.
Yeah.
A mi papá le gustaba muchísimo, pero a mi mamá no le gustaba acampar.
Porque es un gran trabajo por una mujer.
Es mucho trabajo. Es
La
mucho trabajo.
comida, la limpiar.
Eso sí, hay que
Sí.
empacar comida como para hacer un picnic o tienes que cocinar al aire libre y es trabajo sí. Me imagino
Pero el papá es divertido con los hijos.
sí, porque a mi papá no tenía que cocinar, no tenía que preparar la comida, no tenía que empacar todo, sí. Así que era más divertido, ¿no? Bueno, ¿cuál es tu olor favorito? Esto sí es interesante. Tu olor favorito. Para mí, mi olor favorito es el olor de las flores en mi naranjo. El árbol donde crecen las naranjas es el naranjo. Las flores del naranjo. Y sí,
Sí, sí, sí. Yeah.
es mi olor favorito.
Me gusta el olor de café en la mañana.
El olor
Sí.
del café para mucha gente sí es un placer. Sí, bien. Bueno, ¿qué más? Un olor favorito. ¿Algo más?
A mí me encanta todos los olores de las flores.
Sí,
Sí, eso.
Sí.
sí.
Oh, hay algo más. Cuando entro al supermercado Sprouts, me encanta el olor de las frutas y los vegetales.
Sí, sí.
Eso me encanta también.
Cuando vivía en Chicago,
Eso sí.
um, hubo una fábrica de chocolate.
¡Oh!
Y-
Como
y-
Doves.
No, I don't know, no sé, pero el olor fue delicioso.
Sí, sí.
Ferraro Pan Candy, Ferraro Pan Candies Factory.
I don't know, no sé el nombre de la
En,
fábrica.
en los barrios en el sur de Chicago también hay una fábrica que, sí, de Doves, sí,
Oh,
que era un placer pasar varios minutos, media hora con el olor del chocolate. Sí, wow. El olor de una panadería.
Oh, sí.
En una panadería, sí, el olor del pan horneado, el pan horneado, ya, baked bread, sí, siempre es.
Pepperidge Farm está en mi barrio de Downers Grove.
¡Oh,
Oh,
wow!
Ay,
Sí, sí.
fantástico. Sí.
Eso, bien. Bueno, y aquí, por ejemplo, ¿en qué tienda compras más? Que no es supermercado. Es un cheat, ¿sí? Es un engaño hablar del supermercado porque vamos muchas veces al supermercado. Mi tienda favorita es REI. Me encanta REI porque me gusta simplemente buscar cosas nuevas en REI, ¿sí? Como aparatos interesantes para acampar o... ah, ok. Hay una tienda. ¿En qué tienda compras más? What kind of store do you buy a lot in? ¿O no?
No, no compro más, pero me gusta Ace Hardware
Ah,
porque
Sí.
tiene muchas cosas.
Muchas cosas, sí. Y siempre ellos, o la gente que trabajan en ACE, ayudan las personas mucho.
sí, eso es exactamente. Sí, los empleados que trabajan en ACE son muy amables.
Sí,
Las personas que trabajan, los empleados son muy, muy, muy amables. Y
Sí.
siempre me ayudan, siempre me ayudan. Eso es, exactamente.
As an aside, my daughter worked many years at Ace Corporate,
Oh,
and Paul's Hardware is nationally thought by the Ace Corporate to be one of the best of their stores in the entire country.
wow.
Paul's has a
Fantástico.
reputation at corporate as being the finest.
Wow.
Sí,
Sí,
bien. Sí.
sí.
Es importante porque cuando se va a un lugar como en Lowe's o Home Depot, es difícil, ya
Sí,
saben, sí.
sí.
Es difícil encontrar las cosas porque el espacio dentro de la tienda es enorme y bueno, los empleados no tienen mucho tiempo para ayudar a nadie. Ah, es una lástima, pero así es. Así es, sí, es difícil.
La semana pasada aprendió que la la tienda primera de Williams Sonoma está en Sonoma. Porque señor Williams la empezó.
Ok. Entonces el nombre de Williams Sonoma es una combinación del lugar de la tienda
Sí,
original
sí,
y el nombre del dueño.
sí,
Interesante. Ok. El nombre del dueño, owner's name,
sí.
junto con el lugar o la ciudad, el pueblo, para la primera tienda. Y siempre decimos la primera tienda. When we use primera, this is one of the few adjectives that comes in front.
Okay.
The adjectives that talk about order, numerical order, always come in front.
Good.
And yeah, there are only a few adjectives in Spanish that come in front of the noun, but that would be one of them. So la primera tienda, el primer nombre, sí, la segunda idea, all those numerical ordered words always come in front.
I
Bueno,
bet Carrie has been there. Have you been there, Carrie?
Yes, many times. Muchas veces.
Okay.
Mucho dinero.
Sí, bien, bien.
Caro.
Bueno, también me gusta pasar un rato, spend some time, pasar un rato en Crate and Barrel.
Yeah.
También me gusta la tienda Crate and Barrel.
Yo también.
No sé
Sí.
por qué, quizás porque me gusta cocinar y otra vez tienen aparatos de gadgets, ¿sí?
Sí.
Y me
Yo también.
interesan los aparatos para la cocina. Otra vez, sí, requiere que gasto mucho. Ok, ¿qué deportes jugabas más cuando eras niño, cuando eras niña? ¿Qué deportes jugabas más? ¿Había un deporte favorito? Was there some favorite sport? ¿Un juego favorito?
Cuando era niño, no tenía deportes de niñas.
Interesante. Sí, 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 sí. Sí. Y tengo que decirles que en mi barrio, cuando era niña, wow, yo era la única chica del barrio. Todos los vecinos tenían chicos, solamente chicos
Ujú.
varones, just male kids. Así que yo tenía que aprender a jugar al béisbol y jugar a un poquito al fútbol americano, un poquito con los chicos, porque era la única niña del barrio.
Mm.
Ok. Bien. ¿Algo más de deportes o no? I'm sure if Marcos were able to be with us, he would have some things about baseball. Sí, Bárbara.
Yo jugaba muchos deportes cuando yo era niña, pero mi favorito deporte era jugar baloncesto.
Ah, baloncesto. Bien.
Baloncesto. Sí, pero yo crecí en un pueblo donde muchos de los estudiantes no querían jugar los deportes, so era muy fácil estar en un equipo. Por ejemplo, yo casi estaba en todos los equipos porque muchos de los estudiantes no quieren jugar.
Ah.
deporte.
Sí, y eso es interesante porque esta idea de bueno, cuando crecían mis hijos, las chicas tenían muchas oportunidades de jugar a deportes, ¿sí? Sí, las chicas tenían más oportunidades de jugar con más deportes como fútbol o en el gimnasio, sí, gymnastics, sí, la natación. ah, Ellas tenían más oportunidades que yo para los deportes. Y las cosas se están cambiando con las nuevas generaciones de niñas en nuestro mundo, ¿no?
Es verdad, sí, porque cuando mis hijas estaban en la escuela secundaria, era difícil para, ¿cómo se dice? Ganar un espacio en un deporte.
Oh, sí, porque sí, hay un número fijo, there's a fixed number, sí, para oportunidades de estar en un equipo y es difícil, hay competencia, hay gran competencia
Sí,
para participar como un miembro del equipo, ¿sí? Hay un número fijo, there's a fixed number, hay un número fijo de personas que se permiten sí participar en un equipo. Sí,
sí, es muy diferente porque cuando yo era niña, por ejemplo, el equipo de tenis, si una persona quiere, ¿cómo se dice? Show up, la persona pueda jugar tenis. Por
sí.
eso jugué mucho deportes, no era muy bien, pero siempre, es diferente ahora.
Sí,
Sí,
creo que sí. Sí, tienes razón. Tienes razón. Bueno, y bueno, nos quedan unos minutos aquí y tenemos una pregunta más. ¿Cuál fue el peor error que hiciste durante un viaje? That was, I don't know if you watched to the end of their little video. That might be a tougher one too. The biggest boo-boo you ever made on a trip.
oh, I've got one, but I'll wait.
Sí.
But I don't want to talk too much. Lo siento, pero es un poco chistosa.
Oh, sí, claro.
Porque mi esposo y yo estábamos en Costa Rica y yo como siempre estaba preguntando dónde está esto es y estaba preguntando dónde está la ciudad. I think you say it's Cana, but Cana is that gray And then there is otro ciudad que se llama Caña con el tilde.
Oh,
Yo ahora estaba preguntando dónde está la ciudad Gray, but en realidad un señor me dijo, no, no quieres la ciudad que se llama Gray, es Caña con el tilde. Siempre las personas sí estaban confundidos.
sí,
It's
el
different.
sonido.
When you put the tilde,
Ujú.
it's un nombre de un ciudad. But otherwise, I was asking for where's the gray-haired city?
Oh,
So
Sí, la palabra cana es gray hair. Sí.
Cana, sí. And then there's a
And it's
city.
usually used in
Cana.
plural, canas, gray hairs.
So I was asking for that, but city was with the tilde above it. It's a different.
Caña.
Caña, sí.
Sí, entiendo, sí, entiendo. Bien, bien. Bueno, vale. Muy bien, muy bien. Okay, vale. I will be sending you this little article for reading, just so that I make sure I wrap up. I don't want to carry over too far. I know some people have appointments, so have to leave pretty soon. So you'll get that. I'll send you the little link to this in case you're interested. You don't have to watch this whole thing, but again, it kind of shows how those words are connected. So if you want to listen, if you have an interest, there's more of that. And then I'll send you a little, just for fun, just a story video to kind of experience that. And we're going to cobble together just a couple of stray things as sort of a grammar thing next week to talk about some verbs that are helpful to know, but are maybe not what you expect, like how to talk about meeting up and how to talk about how does this thing work. Yeah, how to talk about, some little plays on, well, not play on words, but common words you would hear as we're in a more electronic age for talking about plugging in and turning on and stuff working and stuff not working and all of that kind of thing. So we'll kind of tie things up in a bow for the end of winter season. And I haven't yet decided on the fun video. I have to kind of assess which one will be just sort of a pleasure, pure pleasure, fun story to listen to. Okay? ¿Todo bien? All good?
gracias.
Excelente. Fue un placer. Was a pleasure. Muchísimas gracias, sí, por su participación. Thanks for your participation. And y nos vemos la semana que viene, ¿no? Bien, vale, gracias.